Right. So good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday, the day that it is. And happy almost spring equinox, right? So we are coming up on the spring equinox. So that day where there is that sort of perfect balance between daylight and night, and the beginning of spring. So the renewal, right? The renewal of everything. And in yoga, we have this term, right? We have these terms for the way that nature moves through its cycles, and they're referred to as the gunas. So it's this concept that everything that exists, right? So not just the things that we consider to be the natural world, but everything that exists is influenced by these fluctuating energies. And of course, they are the three principal energies that move through everything. So one of them is that very heightened kind of energetic flow, right? The kind of constant movement, right? Movement that never ceases, but that doesn't really always have purpose or direction, right? That's rajas. And then we have the tamas, which is the opposite of that, which is inertia, right? The energy that is just really stationary and sedentary and that draws everything into complete stillness, and then sometimes at its extreme apathy and, non-participation. And then the state that it is in the middle, right? And the state that is considered the balance, right? The balanced state, sattva, is what we can equate to be this experience of the equinox, right? It's the state where there is neither extreme that is happening, but there is still elements of both, right? That are working through our experience. And so in yoga, we say when your mind is in that sattvic state, right, then what you can receive and what you can perceive is much more complete and much more relaxed, right? Because the mind isn't jumping like crazy. And it's also not in that sort of depressed state where it just doesn't want to engage with anything, right? So our practice is to try and find where this state of equality is, or equilibrium is, and try to maintain it, right? And try to maintain it in a way that, again, the world is going to have this fluctuation constantly going. So we're going to be influenced by things that are going to spin us up and things that are going to make us want to go home and hide, right? So it's our practice to keep the mind in this state of openness, or this state of balance where we can recognize, or where we can participate with both of those sort of more extreme energies, but where we're not being swept away by them. Right? So this is our practice, right? Is to create this sattvic quality in our mind. And that by doing so, we are able to receive ourselves, right? Really interpret who we are. What comes from us is much more clear. And then also what we see in front of us becomes much more clear, right? So let the eyes close for a moment. This concept of renewal, right, is not to be rehashing. Not to be taking what you did yesterday and saying renewal means I just do the same thing over and over and over again, right? But renewal is like, you'll see the perennial plants that are starting to come up, the ones that, have been, however they came into, the ground, but they've wintered, right? They've had the experience of having to go through the process of dying, and they've had to stay. They've had to stay steady underground for the entire winter for them to be able to rise again, to bloom again. It's this kind of renewal that we're looking for in ourselves, the ability not just to keep doing the same thing, right? That's the mistake of trying to sustain something, is never letting it change. But sattva isn't that. Sattva is, you have to allow there to be that natural state of things withering when there's no more energy to sustain it. And then when something arises again, it's not the same as it was. It's now uniquely designed for the environment that it's rising into. And our mind has this capability, this constantly fertile ground of our mind. So like the perennial plant, this renewal, finding yourself again, not from yesterday, but finding yourself again right now. So with your eyes closed, each breath becomes that moment where you can say, here I am right now. And each breath is not the same as the breath that came before. So every inhale is this opportunity to renew. And every exhale is the opportunity to just let go, with no thought to what should stay or what should go, but to just find that feeling of release again. So we practice breathing in and breathing out without attaching to the inhale, without attaching to the exhale. And being completely comfortable with the fact that the breath will come again, even though you are not making it happen, you're inviting it to happen. So as you're breathing, find that softness where as you inhale, the breath floods in. As you exhale, there's no attempt to push the air out, but you simply let it go. And then the inhale happens again, the invitation, the more open you are, the breath floods in. And this is the same thing with your mind. The more open you are, energy moves in. The exhale is gently allowing the thoughts to just move where they will. A couple more breaths, finding yourself opening to that feeling of being flooded with breath. Belly getting softer. Chest opening wider. And that renewal is really this simple. It's not having a plan that says, I'm going to become this. But it's that consistent state of opening and relaxing, opening and relaxing, opening and relaxing. And then that effortless becoming. So that's what the yogis call, right? Liberation, that effortless becoming. That whatever you already are deeply inside will emerge perfectly. So flood yourself with breath. And let the mind get a little softer. One more full deep breath in. As you exhale all the way out, the end of that breath, feel yourself drawing everything in towards the middle of yourself. So squeeze up and in through the pelvic floor, draw the navel back towards the spine and up underneath the rib cage, and draw the chin back in space and lift from the back of your ears and pause. No breath, just pause, hugging everything into your spine. And then release and inhale, full breath. And exhale all the way out, bringing the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. We'll open sound of Om. Take a deep breath in. And let the eyes float open. Nice, you guys. You can release your hands and then go ahead and come forward onto hands and knees. Find especially earlier in the morning, if you stop to do those few minutes of breathing, is it can change the course of your entire day. Right. So onto hands and knees, please. Begin to cat and cow. So hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. As you inhale, lengthen your spine. So you draw the two ends of the body away from each other. So the collarbones and the tail extend away from each other and up. And then the exhale, those two ends start to draw in towards the center. So you draw up through the middle of the spine on the exhale and draw everything in. And then inhaling, continuing, extending out from the center to those extremes. And then exhaling, drawing everything in again. So there's a sense that even though you can talk about the tail, you can talk about the collarbones, and talk about the spine, that it's all one extension. Good. And maybe it feels a little different, that either your lower back or your upper back feels more flexible, but that it's all the same extension. So don't just dump into the place that feels like it's easy and ignore the place that feels like it's less available. Right? Try to find that sense of equilibrium where you are paying equal attention, equal energy, equal effort into both parts of the spine. Good. Nice, you guys. Next time you exhale and curl, stay there. So you round it into your back, pressing into your hands, feeling that lift through your armpits. Good. Feeling the lift through the lowest part of your belly. Feel as though you're trying to draw the front edges of your pelvic bones towards each other. So that top crest of your pelvis kind of angles in. You're still in that curled position. So stay rounded and squeeze in. Good. And now still pressing into your hands, start to lift your collarbones forward like you're trying to straighten your upper back. You're lengthening your collarbones forward again, drawing the side ribs a little bit longer, but keep your low belly and your middle back really engaged. Good. So it's like you're trying to arch and curl at the same time. Nice. One more little lift of your collarbones. Those shoulder blades draw together behind your heart. Beautiful. And now step your right leg back, left leg back into plank pose. Maintain that. Good. So as you come into plank, try not to do that thing where you now collapse your chest into your shoulders, or where you drop your hips lower than your knees, right? Keep it up. Beautiful, you guys. Keep your collarbones lifting up. Continue to feel that lift, those lower pelvic bones pulling towards each other. And this is enough work, right? For the rest of your day. You don't need to do anything else, just this. Just this. Yeah. You've heard of like plank challenges, right? So plank challenges are not just to get you to stay in one place, but they're to get you to stay engaged for a minute. And if you've ever done that, and you're like, a minute feels like forever. This feels like forever, right? Yeah, just about. Take one more breath, lift your chest. That's it. Now take your hips up to the sky, downward facing dog. Breathe out all the way because you were holding your breath, whether you realize it or not. Good. Bend your knees a lot, please. Yep. And then cat-cow your spine. Yeah. Nice. So Lori, if you can, bend your knees in down dog and then cat-cow. There you go. Nice, you guys. Again, finding that sensation still where you can tilt through the pelvis here and still where you can feel that movement through the shoulders. Good. Excellent, you guys. Then come back to a neutral spine. Take your hips nice and high. Straighten your legs. Downward facing dog. Beautiful. And then walk your feet forward towards the top of your mat. Feet underneath the hips. Check out that your baby toe edges of your feet are parallel to the outer edges of your mat. So you might have to widen your heels a little bit. Good. And then bend your knees a lot, please. Drop your belly onto your thighs. Wrap your arms around the backs of your legs. Keep your head dropped, so let your chin drop. Good. Widen your inner knees just a little bit. So Mark, turn your toes forward a little bit more. There you go. So knees widen just a little bit. Scoop into the low belly. Press your butt way up towards the sky, but keep your belly as close to your thighs as you can. So start to straighten your legs by pressing down through your heels and lifting up through your hips, but keep your head dropped. Good. Nice, you guys. Really good. Does not matter if the legs come completely straight. Keep those inner knees wide. Beautiful. Release the hands down to the floor. Please bend your knees a lot again, taking your hips back behind your heels. Scooping into that low belly again. Stretch your arms up alongside your ears. Come into chair pose, Utkatasana. Good. So finding that line where you are reaching on that straight diagonal from your fingertips all the way down through your tail. Keep your inner knees widening just a little bit. That's it. Press through your feet. So again, there's this concept of every pose that you're in, not to be in it for the moment just to survive it, but to be able to stay and stay steady without going into that craziness in our mind and without going into that checking out aspect of our mind. Take one more breath. Good. Come all the way up to stand, please. Nice job. Right hand holds your left wrist and then lean to your right, please. So a little side stretch over to the right. And then pressing into your right foot. So your right foot is holding you. Slide your left leg out to the left just a little bit. So keep the foot flexed. Just slide it out up off of the floor. Yep, flex the foot. Yeah. So it's a little lateral lift of that leg. There you go. It doesn't have to be super high. You got it, Victoria. Good. But I want you to feel as you press that leg out that you're also trying to squeeze your ankles towards each other. And you're turning those toes forward. Don't let the left toes turn out. That's it. And then come all the way back up to center. Nice job. Release the hands and switch. So take the opposite hand. Good. Left hand holds right wrist. Lean to your left. Good. Watch here that you're not pushing your hips forward in space. You're not arching the back. And then pressing into your left foot, slide your right leg out wide to the right. Keeping your toes pointing forward, lift that foot up off the floor. So the toes are angled forward, but the foot is flexed. Good. And again, you're trying to find this strength on the inner thigh, outer hip. So squeeze isometrically, squeeze feet towards each other. And then you got to draw up and in to the low belly. That's it. Nice, you guys. You got it, Harriet. Nice, Emily. Good. Come all the way back up to center. Release the feet. Good. Exhale, hands all the way down to the floor, please. Forward fold. Now your legs are really awake. Good. Bend the knees again. Drop your belly onto your thighs. Wrap your arms back behind your legs again. Drop the head. Again, inner knees widen a tiny bit. Scoop your belly. Press your butt up towards the sky. Again, straightening the legs any amount. Keep pressing down through your heels. So again, waking up the legs from inside, not from trying to just find a position that's going to open the legs for us, right? Good. Release the hands down to the floor. Nice job. Step your right leg back behind you to a lunge. Drop the back heel. Baby toe parallels back of your mat. Cartwheel the arms up to warrior two. Virabhadrasana 2. Nice, you guys. Drop the back hand down the back thigh. Turn your left palm up, reverse warrior. So reaching up and back, stretching through that side waist again, dropping down through the top of your left thigh. So your left thigh crease roots down as your side waist lifts up, right? This is what we call equilibrium, is that we're moving in opposite directions, but we're doing it equally. Come back to center, arms are wide. Good, don't change the legs. Left forearm onto front thigh, right arm over the ear, side angle. Good. Again, dropping your weight onto that front thigh is going to make it feel like there's a lot of extra weight there. So hold yourself through that center of the body, draw your ribs in, feel yourself elevating up off of that thigh, even though the forearm is resting. Good. Come back up to warrior two. Nice job. Straighten your left leg, preparation for triangle pose. Squeeze your feet towards each other and then extend that left rib cage forward as long as you can. Good. And pause. Just parallel to the floor or as long as you can reach. And then start to turn your right rib cage open just a little bit more towards the ceiling. Yeah. Find that twist through your waist. Press through the big toe mound of the front foot. Excellent. Pause one more breath. Really finding yourself. This is what it feels like to be in triangle. And then let the left hand just touch down to the floor or the front leg. Take the right arm up to the sky. You could also have a block underneath that front hand. Good. So the thing I want you to continuously feel is that when you come into the resting part of the pose, right? Call it that. Your hand has touched down. Don't go into that state of mind where you suddenly are no longer paying attention. That's the tamas, right? So we're in that kind of active state when we're getting into the pose. And then we get to this state and we're like, oh, okay, I don't have to pay attention anymore. We never let ourselves stay in that state of being awake and aware, but not in the extreme, right? So how do we cultivate sattva? It's cultivating an openness, but an awareness of how we are participating. Take one more breath, reaching up through that right arm just a little higher. So feel yourself again, elevate. Yeah. And then bend the left knee, release both hands down to the floor. Good. Spin your back heel up, drop that back knee down to the floor. Use a blanket if you need underneath that knee. Take both hands inside the front foot and then flexing your left foot a lot, let your knee drop wide. Yep. So come onto the baby toe edge of the foot. Let the knee open out. Good. And if that position does not feel good on the knee, absolutely keep the foot flat. Totally works. Good, you guys. And walk your hands forward any amount, maybe towards that upper right-hand corner of the mat. Good. Keep your hips forward of your back knees. So you don't want to be directly on the back knee. You want your hips to be forward of that knee so the back leg gets a nice stretch on the thigh. Good. And then dropping to the elbows if that's available, or again, staying on fingertips or blocks. Just watching yourself at the moment that you get closer to the floor. Does your mind go in that direction too? The answer is yes. So we laugh. By the time we get to the end of class, the last couple of poses that are on the floor, it's like, you're already in Shavasana. Like you do not care anymore. Your mind is like, I'm done. I'm thinking about lunch. I'm thinking about whatever else I have to do today. That's right. I do live in your heads because I have this kind of mind too. So this is the practice, right? It's not these poses. These poses help open a lot of energetic flow in the body, right? It helps to regulate prana. But what creates that sattvic mind, right, is how much we pay attention to what we're doing. And not in that hyper vigilant way, that's the rajas way, not being in that state of constantly having to be doing something. So can you be here and let your mind just be open to being here? And if your answer is like, no, I'm really just thinking about whatever's coming next. Okay, be open to that too. Walk yourself back up onto your hands. Good, bring that left foot flat to the floor. Nice, lift the back knee, please, and then take your left arm up to the sky. So you come into spinal twist. Good, so you're twisting towards that front knee. That's it, nice, Victoria. Lean onto that right hand a little bit more so your chest moves back, your belly moves back, and then stretch the left arm over your ear, reaching towards the upper right-hand corner of the mat. Really good. Excellent, you guys. Take one more breath, reaching the chest open, armpit open, kick that back thigh higher. Yeah, you had a back thigh, you forgot. And then go ahead and release that hand down to the floor. Good. Step back to downward facing dog. And that's the crazy thing, right? Wherever our mind is, we're paying attention, that we forget whatever we were just paying attention to a minute ago. Come forward to plank pose, upward push up. Good. Yeah, don't assume that you're just leaving plank pose immediately, but really find plank. You won't have to do any plank challenges for the rest of the week. Just kidding. For it to be meaningful, you got to do it every day. It's not enough to do 5 in one day and say, I don't have to do it ever again. Keep your chest up, keep your throat up. Even if knees have to be on the floor here, find that feeling of lift internally, right? That's what really matters, is that you're finding that feeling of how do I elevate myself internally? And how do I work with that moment where my mind wants to grip really hard or it wants to run away really fast? So take one more breath, relax, it's just plank. And then take your hips up to the sky, downward facing dog. Nice, you guys. Couple of full breaths in dog, finding your hands rooting down into the floor more consciously because you know that you're not just moving on to the next pose. You got it. Finding your shoulders sliding up towards the center of your back. Shoulder blades moving. Yeah. And then step your left foot forward between, no, actually we stepped back with the right foot, correct? So right foot steps forward between the hands. There we go. Drop your back heel, baby toe parallels back of your mat, warrior 2. Second side. Good, you guys. Watch that front knee again is widening towards the second or third toe of the front foot. Good. And then drop the left hand down the back thigh, turn the right palm up and back, come into reverse warrior. Again, dropping down through that right thigh crease as you reach up through your side ribs. Nice, you guys. Beautiful. And then bring yourself back up to center, arms out to that letter T. Right forearm drops onto the front thigh, left arm comes over the ear. Good. And again, you're not pressing your weight down into that right forearm, but letting the connection be there, be something that helps you lift through your right side rib cage a little more. So it's a reference point. And then extend through that right rib cage even more. So you get longer from your armpit to your hip. Good. And then come all the way back up to warrior 2, arms wide. Nice, you guys. And then straighten the front thigh, preparation for triangle pose, hugging the feet towards each other. Extend out through your right side waist again, reaching towards the top of your mat, and then pause there. So don't immediately reach down for the floor. Just extend out as far as you can. And on the second side, you always reach a little bit less further than the first side because now you're anticipating how hard it's going to be to hold. So go out further because you know you're holding back. There you go. Catch yourself in that. Turn your left rib cage open a little bit more. Yeah. This is the energy of triangle. Good. And then let that right hand touch down, finding its resting place on the front leg, floor or block. Left arm reaches to the sky. Watch that you don't just collapse into that right hand and completely forget about the extension of your spine. Good. Nice, you guys. You know, I really like the idea of these perennial plants. Been thinking about them a lot, that from year to year, you can see the same plant, it comes up, but it's not always the same, right? You can see the years where, you know, the plant is struggling a little bit. You can see the years where the weather has affected the way that the plant has come back. And we make notice of that for gardeners, where we say, oh yeah, it's been a tough year for my whatever plant it is. And then we try to do what we can to support it. But when it's us, we're just like, I don't know, there must be something wrong with me. Right? We forget that we too are influenced in the same way, and we need the same kind of support. Oh, this is the influence that's been coming into your life. A lot of that heated, hot, always moving energy. I have to work in the other direction to find sattva. I have to balance that. Take one more breath, reaching through that left hand, lifting yourself, elevating from inside. And then bend that right knee, release both hands down to the floor. It always feels good when you come out of a long hold, right? Spin your back heel up, drop that back knee down to the floor, take both hands inside your front foot, and then flex that right foot a lot. So the foot has to be really active for this to be nice for the knee. And then drop the knee wide. So come onto the baby toe edge of the foot. And again, if the knee does not like this action, this position, keep the foot flat to the floor. No problem. Just walking the shoulders inside that knee with the foot flat still is a great stretch for the hip. Good. Walk the hands forward any amount that you'd like, maybe towards that upper left-hand corner of the mat. Pause there before you completely fall onto your elbows. I know. Check out that back thigh, that it's not collapsing to the floor, but that your hips are forward of your knee. You got it, Mark. You can come forward even a little more with your hips, not with your hands. There you go. And then go ahead, drop down to the elbows if you'd like, if you're not already there. Nice job, Harriet. Good. So this perennialness, right? In yoga, the term that's used for the sound of Om is pranava, which means that it is eternally new, right? That it's never the same sound, even though it is a continuous, ongoing, existing sound. And even every time you make the sound, it's not the same, right? The vibration is unique to the moment. So this perennialness in us is during this equinox time is something great to connect to, is what is always rising in you, what comes back again and again and again, and how are you cultivating it? Instead of it just being something that is always there and you try to make it the same as it was last time or yesterday, is how are you renewing it? How is it feeding you now? And if it's not feeding you now, why are you feeding it? It's a good question. Right? Can you pay attention to the way that you're being influenced by the circumstances of your life? And can you really pay attention to how the balance of that comes through you, how it's necessary for you to know that this is how I balance my own mind, because the world will not do it for me. Right? That's the thing. The world is crazy. You're waiting for it to slow down. You will wait forever. Take one more breath. And then walk your hands all the way back in. Take that right foot flat to the floor, please. Lift the back knee. And then planting the left hand, take your right arm up to the sky. Find a spinal twist. Good. So that same reach through the arms that you had in triangle. Push down through that left hand, reach up through the right. Feel that elevation of your ribs. Throat moves back. And then, yeah, kick your back thigh higher as you lean your chest back in space. Good. Really nice, you guys. And then take that right arm over the ear towards the upper left-hand corner of your mat. Rotate your rib cage open one more time. Yeah. And then release that hand down to the floor. Nice job. Step back to downward facing dog. Good. Extra points for jumping. Come forward to plank pose. You are racking them up. Good. Pause in your plank pose, even if that means knees are on the floor. Keep your throat up. I want you to be so used to being engaged in plank that it doesn't even occur to you that it's work. And I want you to be so engaged in yourself that you stop worrying about those moments where you're like, oh God, this is going to be hard because I have to pay attention. Just get used to paying attention, right? That Sattvic mind is not one that is blissed out. Right? Sometimes we think that yogic state of mind is one that is just in la la land. And it's not. Equanimity is a challenging place to stay. One more breath, inner thighs up. Yes. And then knees to the floor, please. Drop your chest to the floor between the thumbs. Lift your chin. So knees, chest, and chin. So your chest has to come forward towards the tips of your fingers. Butt is up in the air. So knees are on the floor, chest is on the floor, butt is up. Hands planted like it would be for cobra. Good. So squeeze your knees and your hands towards each other. So you really engage through that low back, squeezing in and up. Good. And then pull all the way forward onto your belly, please. Point your toes, rise up, cobra, lift head, neck, and chest. You got it. Nice, you guys. Nice, Lori. And then exhale, release the belly, please, or release the chest. Come on up onto your forearms for Sphinx pose. So elbows are underneath your shoulders, pressing into the forearms, feeling the chest lifting away from the floor. Good. Drag back on the arms so you feel your chest lift even higher. And then turn your right forearm parallel to the top of your mat. Bend your left knee. Take your heel in towards your butt. Reach back left hand to find your foot or your ankle. So quad stretch. Other foot mark. There you go. Try not to let the knee go wider than your hip. It's going to want to, so keep it in line. Good. Then kicking the foot back into your hand might give you a little bit of a feeling of extra support. Root the knee down. Good. Keep pressing into that right forearm so you continue to lift through your chest, through your back. Really nice. Good. And then slowly release, please. Bring that left forearm now parallel to the top of your mat. Bend your right knee. Reach back for the foot or the ankle. Excellent, you guys. Again, trying to angle that heel so that it is moving towards the middle of that right butt cheek or slightly to the outside, right? If you had to choose, then you're moving slightly to the outside. But again, your ankle doesn't go wider than your hip. Some people, your joints will go that way. Don't want your ankle wider than your hip. Don't worry, Victoria, you're not there. And your knee does not slide wider than your hip. Root down through the top of that knee. So again, you're drawing the thigh down. And that little kickback of the foot helps you lift your shoulder a little higher. It's nice if I use those words, right? That it helps you lift more instead of, oh God, it just hurts. Because the idea is not to get into the pose and say, oh, it just hurts, but to find where you can engage in the pose where the sensation is useful. And whatever that useful sensation is that's what the pose is. Not beyond that and not less than that. Good. Slowly release that foot, please. Nice job. Come on down, make a little pillow with your hands. Rest your forehead on your hands. Breathe into your belly, breathe into your lower back. I often wonder, it's said that, you know, our grace and our gift of being human is that we are in this form where we can comprehend the concept of enlightenment, liberation. That other sentient beings, they don't even worry about that. They don't even think about that. Right? So those flowers or those plants that are in that process of renewing, is they don't worry or judge, am I going to be the right kind of flower? Am I going to have the right color? Are the bees going to like me? Right? They don't think on this level, as far as we know, right? Their sentience is not oriented that way. And so what they do is they live in some ways in a more easeful way because they're just living to be what they already are and doing the best they can with what is presented as their circumstances. So we have so much available to us through our minds, and at the same time, our mind is the thing that makes us get confused about what we are. And so we go about our lives wondering, what am I even trying to achieve? I have no idea. What is renewing in you all the time? Or when you give it space, what naturally grows in you is that's the exploration. And how do you cultivate that openness for it to grow? And how do you constantly become aware of the changing qualities that mean that the way that things grow, the way that things express itself through you has to also constantly evolve. You cannot stay the same as last year. Take one more deep breath. And then bring your forehead to face back towards the floor, please. Stretch your arms reaching back in the direction of your feet. Arms alongside the body, palms facing down. Give yourself a little bit of space between the hands and your hips, so move your hands slightly wider. And then keeping the palms pressing down, press through the front edge of your pelvis, so your pubis bone, lower edge of the pelvis presses down and forward. And then lift the legs up off the floor, extending through the inner edges of the legs. Really point the toes back towards the back of your mat. And then pressing into your fingers, start to lift head, neck, and chest up. Good. And then with your hands still on the floor, pull that lower rib cage, front of the lower ribs up away from the floor. So again, you're elevating in and up. And then float the arms up off the floor with energy in them. Like, again, this is locust pose, right? So these are your grasshopper wings. So feel as though you can push down through the hands, like you're pushing into heavy air, and feel the chest lift as you push down through the arms. Good. Long extension, pull through the crown of your head. Consider this like plank pose, but without your hands. Good. Deep breath. Get long. Yes. And then bend your knees, kick your heels in, reach your hands a little higher as though you're going to reach for your ankles. Some of you will reach for your ankles, but if you're not reaching them, don't worry. Just keep lifting the chest. Hug those arms like you're going to reach your ankles. If you have hold of the ankles, hug your knees in. Good. And then release the ankles, come back to locust. Don't collapse. Extend the legs back to straight. Yeah. And then slowly release. Turn one cheek to the side. Good. If you need to bend the knees and windshield wiper your legs from that, go ahead. Again, ideally though, is we can do those actions and we don't need to then decompress afterwards. That's the hope. It's not always the reality. Good. Turn your cheek to the other side, please, just for a moment. Yeah. Equinox, that equal energy, as we assume that it's going to be the place where there's no effort needed or where it's easy to just happen. But equilibrium or equanimity is actually a state that takes effort to arrive at, for you to understand it, because you have to get out of the extremes that you're in. Once you find it, it may feel like it's effortless. It's an effortless experience, but it's up to you to continue to navigate those influences that will take you away from that, always. So the state is always there, but our mind jumps, right, from one thing to another. Walk your hands back in, please. Press up to hands and knees. Take a child's pose. Let your knees go wide, big toes together to touch. Drop your hips back to your heels. And this is inescapable, right? The gunas, it said, as long as we are in an embodied form, as the gunas are going to influence us. There's no getting out of that. And there's no opportunity where you say, oh, I finally reached a sattvic state of mind. I don't ever have to deal with this again. No, you have to deal with it every moment of your existence. But it becomes easier when you understand how that influence has moved your mind in the past. It becomes easier to come back to that sattvic state of mind when you are comfortable with that effortlessness. Walk yourself back up onto hands and knees. Good. Downward facing dog. Downward dog. Good. Take your right leg up and back behind you, please. Down dog split. Nice. Step that foot forward between the hands. Lunge. Good. Inhale both arms to the sky. High lunge. Yeah. Good. And then take your torso forward parallel to the floor. So it's like you're doing a lunging plank pose. Arms straight out alongside your ears. Feel that elevation lift up and then step all the way forward onto that front leg. Come into warrior three. So lift the back foot up off the floor. Taking that thigh parallel to the floor, somewhere close to it. Really nice, Emily. You got you almost had it, Mark. Good. Kick your back thigh higher, please. Bend your back knee, kick your heel in towards your butt. And now start to lift your chest up any amount into a back bend as though you were going to reach for dancer pose. Good. So chest up, chest up, chest up. Nice, Mark. Beautiful. And then start to reach the chest forward again. Extend the leg back to straight. Warrior three. I know I never told you to reach for your ankle. And then release the hands down to the floor, standing split. Good. Nice, you guys. And then step the left leg way back behind you, lunge. Take that right leg back up to the sky, down dog split. Yep. Right leg back and up, down dog split. Bend the knee, kick your heel in towards your butt, stack the right hip on top of the left, open. Good. Feel yourself drag that knee back in space, all the way up and back. Nice, Faith. Good. And then point the knee towards the floor. Take that right knee forward and wide, pigeon pose, right knee towards the right wrist. Good. Turning the pelvis so your hip bones are in the same line with each other. Walk your hands forward as you let your hips drop down towards the floor without letting yourself fall onto that right hip. Good. Come into that pigeon position where your hands are on the floor. There you go, Lori. Just going to say, make sure you turn that left hip forward so that your knee is really facing the floor. Yeah, I see you're working with that front shin. Just want to make sure that that back leg is going the direction it should be. Yeah, you look okay there. Good. Nice, you guys. Keep that front shin pressing down into the floor. So again, there's an engagement there. There's a conscious action there. Good. And Andrea, your camera is off, so I assume that you are doing fantastically. In my mind, your poses are just fantastic. They're just beautiful. Nice, Laura. Same thing, Audrey. And so maybe that's the thing, right? Keep your camera off because the practice I imagine that you're doing will be so fantastic.
If one of us did it, we all did it.
That's right. And if one of you did it in my mind, then you all did it perfectly in my mind. Good, you guys. Take one more breath where you're at. And then walk yourself back up onto your hands, please. Bend your back knee, kick your heel in, and reach back with the right hand for the foot or the ankle. So a twisting quad stretch. Reach back with the opposite hand. Good. And then that same feeling of kicking that foot into the hand, rooting down through the thigh. And then I know it feels impossible to do, but feel like you're actually going to scoop up through your low belly and drop your right butt cheek down to the floor. Yeah, you're like, no, 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 no. Try. Lift your low belly and like your right butt cheek is going to drop down to the floor. Yep, it's not going to completely get there, but doing the action of it sets your pelvis a little bit more neutral. There you go. Little different stretch. And then slowly release. Please let that foot come back to the floor. Plant the hands, lift back up to downward facing dog. Right leg steps back alongside left. Good. Take a vinyasa if you'd like, or hang out in dog or take a child's pose. If you're doing the vinyasa, you're coming forward to plank. Nice. Now coming forward into cobra or upward facing dog, your choice. Coming back to downward facing dog as you are ready. Nice, Lori. Nice, Harriet. Really good. But find your hands again, Mark, thumb and first finger. You got it. Excellent, you guys. Left leg comes up and back, down dog split. If you're taking your time with your vinyasa, take your time. You'll meet back up with us. Good. Step that left foot forward between the hands, lunge. Inhale, both arms to the sky, high lunge. Yes. Good. Even here, can you lift that low belly, lift your hip points up higher, drop your tail. That's it. Now, as you take your chest forward into that parallel position, don't collapse your belly onto your thigh. Keep that feeling of lift. See a theme running through here, right? Now lean forward even more onto that front heel and then take the right leg up parallel to the floor, warrior three. So you're not throwing your weight forward, but you're shifting consciously and then lifting through that inner edge of the leg, through the inner thigh, just like locust pose. Good. Now bend that right knee, kick your heel in towards your butt, keep the thigh up. And start to lift through your chest, coming into any amount of that back bend, like you're going to reach for dancer, but don't reach back for the foot. Just lift your chest, kick your heel up. Nice. And then start to lower the chest again, extend that leg back to straight, back to warrior three. Maybe that's the harder transition. I think it is. And then release the hands down to the floor, standing split, leg is still in the air. That's it. Nice, Victoria. Good, Laura. You got it. And beautiful, Lori. That's a nice extension. And then go ahead and step all the way back. Nice long lunge. Good. Plant the hands. Take your left leg up and back behind you, back to down dog split. Yep. It's the same leg up you just had. Bend the knee, kick your heel in towards your butt. Stack the left hip on top of the right. Nice, Emily. Keep that right armpit lifted nice and wide. Good. Flex that foot face. There you go. And then turn your knee facing the floor, please. Take your left knee forward and wide. Find pigeon pose on the second side. Good. Again, as you slide that right leg back, don't let the hips come out of alignment. So actually lift and shift that right hip forward just a little bit more. And then drop the pelvis straight down. And then walk your hands forward any amount, dropping down to your elbows or using blocks, whatever you'd like as your support. Keep your shin pressing down into the floor. Nice, you guys. There's one of the quotes from Swami Satchidananda that I like a lot. And I was saying earlier this week, right, that now is a good time to start to go back to the things that have consistently in your life been steadying, that have consistently in your life been uplifting. Not to try and find something new, create something new out of nowhere, but what has been consistently steadying in your life that you can come back to. So in a yoga practice, that might be specific practices, it might be teachers, it might be specific teachings that really resonate with you. And they can resonate in new ways, obviously. But to go back to what has been consistently steady, so that your mind is not always trying to grasp something that is novel. Doesn't have to always be in that state of struggling to figure it out or understand. So one of the quotes from Swami Satchidananda that I really love is he talks about this quality, right? Flowers and bees. And he says that your job is just to be like the flower, is just to bloom. Bees will come. But if we think, right, that as the flower, we have to bloom in the way that I hope the bees will like me, then we will twist ourselves into something other than what we naturally are. Flowers don't do that. Right? They are what they are. And you are the same, is that inside of you, if you allow yourself to bloom in the way that is most natural to you, bees will come. Right? Everything that is necessary for your fulfillment will come. But that quality of the openness to what you are, that's the Sattvic state of mind. Right? I'm not seeking what I should be, but I'm allowing what is inside of me to grow organically, to rise. And then I cultivate that, I support that, knowing that the outside world is throwing influence at me. And if you are a gardener, right, as you take care that your plants get taken care of before the winter, you make sure that they get fertilized, you make sure that they get watered, you take care of pests, you take care of this, you take care of that. But then it's you and you're like, I don't know. No idea what to do with this body and this mind. And that's what yoga is. It's tending to this body and this mind. Discovering that Sattvic state. Walk yourself back up onto your hands, please. Bend your back knee, kick your heel in towards your butt. Reach back left hand for the foot or the ankle. So take the twisting quad stretch. And again, that position might not serve today. So maybe you just plant the right hand and take a twist, taking the left arm up to the sky. Maybe you bend the knee, but don't reach for the foot. Nice. Good, Lori. That works too, Victoria. Nice, Emily. Good, Harriet. Excellent, you guys. Look happy for a moment. Yeah. There you go. Good. And then go ahead and release that stretch. Let the foot come back to the floor. Plant the hands, please. Lift that back knee and come back to downward facing dog. That's the last part of the pose that you forgot. You forgot to smile. Good. Downward facing dog. Slide forward to plank pose, upward push up, lower down slow to your belly, coming through knees if you need, and then bend both knees, kick your heels in towards your butt, reach back for the feet or the ankles if you can. If you are not reaching the feet today, keep your hands alongside your ribs. Good. Hug your knees in towards the chest, or Emily, if you want to flip over onto your back actually and come into bridge, but come into bridge where I want you to try to hold your ankles if you can. So if you're holding your ankles on your belly, hug your knees in, start to lift up head, neck, and chest and your thighs. Kick your feet back into your hands. So come up into bow pose. And if you have to, if that position does not work and you're trying this on your back, try to hold your ankles and then lift up into bridge. You're doing the same position. Good. Nice, you guys. Bend your elbows just a little bit. Try and feel that sensation of your back working to lift yourself higher. Yes. Nice, babe. You got it. One more breath. Good. And then slowly release. Excellent. Stay on your back, Emily. You guys that have just been on your belly, take a moment and then find your way onto your backs. Flip over. Like a pancake, you're done. Oh, birds chirping in the back. Hopefully they're not stuck in the ceiling.
It was like you talked about the bees and they were responding.
The birds and the bees. There you go. On your back, please. Take your right ankle over your left thigh. Knees are bent. Right ankle over left thigh. So switch your feet, Mark. And then lift your left shin parallel to the floor. Reach through to hold that leg if you'd like, or let the legs hold themselves. I have to joke because if you have never experienced this in the studio, is the ceiling is like really hollow. Birds absolutely get into the ceiling and then get stuck. And sometimes they get out of the ceiling and they get stuck in the back prop room. And then I have to chase birds around trying to get them out of the studio. So I'm hoping, I'm hoping that the birds are not stuck. Flex your feet. The brilliance of the sentience that we have as human beings is that we have the ability to cultivate so much. And it's through your mind that the gunas influence us. So that craziness of that frenetic energy happens through your mind, makes the mind race. And the heaviness of that inert energy makes the mind go into that state of dullness or depression. And somewhere intermixed in all of that is that state where the mind is just open. It doesn't mean that nothing is happening. It means that it's just not clinging. It's just open. That's that state of equilibrium, equanimity that we're looking for. And we pass through it a lot, but we don't stay. That's the practice, is can you start to cultivate that state of mind so that you can stay, even though the world is still fluctuating through all of the other extremes. Cross that right thigh all the way on top of your left, please, so the knees are stacked. Separate your feet wide, reach for your ankles or your shins. Go Mukhasana legs. Oh. No, what's awesome about having people in studio is that I can hear the sounds that you make, which means that I know where you're at with your experience. But it's fine, even if you're not making them, if you're not in studio, as I'm making the sounds in my head for you. So again, don't worry, I'm filling in the gaps of your practice in my mind. Good, you guys. Release the legs, please. Hugging the knees in towards the chest, please. And then take your left ankle on top of your right thigh, please. So ankle over the knee. And just ankle over knee, Mark. And then reaching through to hold that right thigh if you choose, or again, you can just let the legs stay where they are and let your arms relax. Good. There's a beauty to letting the legs hold themselves because the lower belly then has to do a little bit more work. The shoulders maybe get a little bit of a break. Right. So please do not take for granted the concept of equanimity. Don't take it for granted that it's impossible for you to do. It's not. Don't take it for granted that it's supposed to be this state that is so easy. Yes, when you're in it, things feel easier, easeful. Put it that way. But it doesn't mean that there's no effort required to cultivate that state and to maintain it. And that once you have discovered it or you felt it, you've got a glimpse of it, it doesn't mean that you won't have to continuously still cultivate it to maintain it. And if you think that there's anything else that you're doing in your life that is more important than that it's worth it to let your mind go crazy to do something outside of you. Maybe take a look at that thought and see how well it's worked for you so far. Let that left thigh cross all the way over top of the right now. Let the knees come on top of each other. Nope, same leg on top, Mark, so switch it. Knees on top of knees, and then separate the feet, reach for the ankles or the shins. Go Mukhasana legs. Try to keep your ankles in a nice neutral line, so don't let the feet curl in. Nice, you guys. And then slowly release the legs, hugging the knees all the way in towards the chest, squeeze. And then my suggestion for you as one of your final poses is shoulder stand. So if you have the availability for shoulder stand today, if that works for you, shoulder stand is my suggestion. You could also do this if you need to modify the position, is you can place a block underneath your sacrum, take your legs up towards the sky, do a supported shoulder stand if that's what feels like it's appropriate today. If you have a wall, you could start in legs up the wall and then press your feet into the wall and lift your hips. But some version of shoulder stand is my suggestion. So setting the arms alongside you, drawing the knees in towards the chest, finding that rolling on the spine, rooting down through the tops of the shoulders. So again, there's that support. And the abdominals engage as you lift your hips, using the hands to the lower back, extend the legs up overhead. Nice. And again, if today your shoulder stand is placing a block underneath your seat and setting your legs up to the sky, that's perfect. If you don't even have a block and you just want to lay on your back and send your legs up towards the sky, it's perfect. Good. Root down through the upper arms and then keep lifting through that side waist. The same energy of plank. That same energy of I have to hold myself and elevate myself from inside. Find it here. It's going to feel different because obviously you're upside down. But find as much of that same connection as you can. Sattvic state of mind. So part of the natural world is part of the natural capabilities of your mind. Your mind slides through that state throughout the day. But then it gets distracted by things that are moving really fast or things that are not moving at all. So we cultivate, we cultivate, we cultivate, we cultivate. And that's the constantly renewing. That's the pranava in you. Constant cultivation. Constant awareness of, oh, my life has a lot of this influence right now. How do I balance that? It can be either influence or both. It can be, man, this person is so much this energy that whenever they're around, this is how I react. How do I cultivate a steady state of mind while that is happening? Come into plow pose if you'd like, letting the toes come to the floor above the top of the head, like an inverted forward fold. As the toes come down, keep reaching up through your hips though, so you get still that stretch through your lower spine. And there's not that feeling of collapse in your chest. There might still be a feeling of restriction, right? Depending on the body proportions. Nice, Lauren. Good, Emily. Nice, Harriet. Good, you guys. And slowly take the legs back up towards shoulder stand if you are in plow. And again, if you need to come out of the pose a little earlier than what I'm suggesting, then you will absolutely come out of the pose when your body is ready to. Give yourself another couple of breaths in shoulder stand, again, reaching through the legs. So it's not just your shoulders holding you, but it's the body that is elevating itself, holding itself suspended. Shoulders are support for that. Excellent, you guys. And one more breath, lift yourself really tall. That's it. And then slowly release, starting to roll down the spine, one vertebra at a time. As your hips come low, bend your knees in towards your chest. Try and make it a soft landing. There you go. Drawing the knees in towards your chest. Beautiful. And then place the feet down to the floor. Pause for a moment with the feet flat and the knees bent. And And then either keep your knees bent just as they are, or straighten the legs for fish pose. So either way, you could do this pose. Bend your elbows if you'd like, back to cactus, back to robot arms, sorry. Alternatively, you could have the arms straight. So I'm giving you lots of options, right? Good. My suggestion, the easier way to do the pose is to straighten the legs. I kind of like the knees bent though, but my suggestion is to straighten the legs. And then either bend the elbows or again, arms straight, palms flat, snuggle those arms close alongside you. And pressing down to the upper arms, pressing down to the legs, start to squeeze into your back. So you arch the heart up towards the sky, right, from the back. And as you squeeze and lift the heart up towards the sky, you lengthen your throat so the top of your head just touches the floor, like a fish, right, jumping out of the water, arcing out of the water. Beautiful. Again, it moves the throat in the opposite direction as shoulders stand. Opens the chest the opposite direction if there was restriction and shoulders stand. Takes you out of any extreme that might have occurred in shoulder stand. One more breath, rooting down through the arms. Feel that squeeze behind your heart. And then slowly release, unwinding your spine. Good, giving yourself a moment. Then drawing the right knee in towards your chest. Hug it in. Come into a spinal twist, bringing that right knee across the body over to the left, reaching the right arm wide. Good. If you've been really excited about all the quad stretching and you want one more, go ahead and bend your left knee, kick your heel and reach back for the foot or the ankle. And again, you can always bend the knee and not reach for the foot. Nice, Victoria. You got it, Laura. Good. Perfect, Emily. Good. And then release that leg. If you are holding the quad stretch, please come back to center, out of your twist. Then extend the right leg down to the floor, hug the left knee in. Come into your twist on the second side, moving that knee over towards the right. Good. Extending the left arm wide, or again up over the ear if that feels like it gives you more openness on the shoulder. And then if you want to go for that quad stretch, bend the right knee, kick your heel in, reach down to find the foot or the ankle, or don't. It's confusing for your mind, right? When I'm like, do this or don't do it. You could do this or don't do that. Start to find a place where you are aware of the options, all of the ways that you can engage in the world, and then to be really clear on the ones that are meaningful to you. That what you're cultivating, what you're renewing are things that are feeding you here and now. Nice. Slowly release that quad stretch. If you're holding the foot, unwind your twist, bring the left knee back towards center, squeeze it in. Bring the right knee in as well, hug everything in one more time, squeeze into a little ball, lifting your forehead up towards your knees, hug. And press that low back down to the floor, hollow the belly. There you go. And then slowly release the shoulders, extend the legs out in front of you, letting the arms come alongside you, palms facing up for Shavasana. Make sure that you are warm, that you have what you need so you don't get chilled. And can you again come back to that sensation of breathing in a way where you are opening the body to be flooded with breath? But the inhale is an allowance of the body to be so full. The exhale is the allowance for the body to become empty. You're just looking for that openness, for breath to flood in and for breath to flood out. Very gently, let the breath get even deeper. Aware of the body that is breathing, body that is being breathed. And begin to let that body stretch and move in whatever ways serve it well. And as you're ready, draw your knees in towards your chest and roll to your right side. Taking a moment before you begin to push the floor away, come back to an upright seated position, back where you began. Drawing the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. The Sattvic mind, the Sattvic state is one that we pass through it often, but because it's so easeful, we tend to ignore it because the mind is oriented towards extremes. It's looking for what's running fast or what's running slow. It's looking for how do I tune out instead of how do I tune in. So that Sattvic state is one that we have to cultivate and then let ourselves learn to stay. And part of what really helps with that is having the consistency of what keeps bringing you back to yourself. What habits, what routines, what practices keep bringing you back to yourself in a very real way. Not a habitual way, but a very real way. Is lean on those things, go back to those things. So you don't have to renew yourself and pretend that you are brand new like you've never been before, but that you are renewing all of the most essential parts of yourself so that they fit into this world as it is right this moment. They're informed by the environment that you are in, but they flourish because you are cultivating it so well. And if you're not sure what to do, what to use, the mantra we use is Om Namah Shivaya. Right? I bow to that place inside of me that is always in equanimity so that I know, I never forget that it exists in me. Whatever else my mind is doing, I can draw it back to that. The energy of the equinox, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Keep bowing to that place inside. You get a little closer to equanimity, just so you know what it looks like, tastes like, feels like. And then you'll learn to stay. Deep breath in for the sound of Om. Sliding the thumbs up to the space between the eyebrows. Namaste. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. Till I see you again.